Pull up the Volcanoes volcano alert map right now. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology maintains a public map of every active volcano in the archipelago. It updates in real time. Every color change, from green to yellow to orange to red, represents a decision made by scientists watching instruments around the clock. Pull it up. Today, you will see 3 volcanoes simultaneously highlighted. Mayon Volcano, Luzon Island, Alert Level 3. Pyroclastic density currents on May the 2nd and again on May 5th. 124 barangays affected. Lava flows on 3 separate flanks totaling more than 8 kilometers of active advance. Taal Volcano, Batangas, Luzon. Alert Level 1, briefly elevated to 2. Phreatomagmatic eruptions on April 29th. A new volcanic ash advisory issued by Tokyo VAAC on the night of May 7th. Inflationary deformation ongoing, 50 kilometers from Manila. Kanlaon Volcano, Negros Island. Alert Level 2, 5 ash emission events in a single day on May 4th. 2,975 tons of sulfur dioxide in 24 hours. 7 ash emission events on May 5th, the most active volcano in the Visayas, erupting since June 2024 with no end in sight. 3 volcanoes, 3 islands, 3 different archipelago regions, 3 active alert designations, all simultaneously, right now. The Philippines has 24 active volcanoes. Tonight, 12. 5% of them are erupting at the same time. Stay with me, because the 3 volcano map is alarming in itself, and it is the story most of the coverage is telling. Mayon's pyroclastic flow, Kanlaon's ash plumes, Taal's phreatomagmatic bursts. But the story underneath the map is about a single agency, PHEVOLCS, that is simultaneously managing 3 separate major volcanic emergencies across 3 separate island groups with 3 separate monitoring networks, 3 separate evacuation coordination chains, and 3 separate communities asking the same question. Is this going to get worse? And the honest answer that the monitoring data gives for all 3 volcanoes right now, not the reassuring public communication answer, not the calibrated official language, is the same for all 3. We don't know yet. We are going to go through each one. And then we are going to explain what it means that all 3 are active at the same time. Mayon Volcano, the most active volcano in the Philippines. 69 eruptions since 1616. Currently in its 122nd consecutive day of eruption. On May the 2nd, 2026, Mayon unleashed a pyroclastic density current, locally called an uson, that raced 4 kilometers down the Mayon Gully on the southwestern slopes. An ash column punched 3,000 meters into the atmosphere. PHEVOLCS raised the alert from Level 2 to Level 3, Wildfire Explorer. As of May 5th, lava flow lengths are 3, 8 kilometers in the Basud Gully, 3, 2 kilometers in the Bonga Gully, and 1 kilometers in the Mayon Gully. The lava flow in the Mayon Gully collapsed on May 5th, initiating a series of lava flow front collapse pyroclastic density currents lasting from 0719 to 0726, with estimated runout distances of 3,000 meters. CBS News. 3 active lava flows, 2 PDC events in 5 days, 122 days of continuous effusion. And the specific hazard profile of Mayon right now is not explosive. It is collapse generated. The lava flow fronts can fail without seismic warning. The PDC can be running before the monitoring network issues an alert. Sulfur dioxide emissions during the current eruption have averaged 2,166 tons per day, with a peak of 7,633 metric tons on March 6th, the highest in 15 years. Georgia Forestry Commission. At least 124 barangays across Albay province have been affected. Nearly 5,000 people are taking temporary shelter in 12 evacuation centers. Georgia Forestry Commission. The Mayon situation is the most immediately dangerous of the 3. The highest alert level, the most active pyroclastic behavior, the most people displaced. But it is also, paradoxically, the most studied and the best monitored of the 3. 122 days of continuous data, a dense seismic network. The Mayon Volcano Observatory with personnel who have been watching this specific eruption since January 6th. The danger from Mayon is known, the timeline is unknown, and the 97,000 people in the affected zone who have not evacuated are making their daily calculation beside a volcano that has been erupting continuously since before the Philippine basketball season started, Taal Volcano. And here is the geography that makes it categorically different from every other volcano in this script. Taal Volcano is located in the province of Batangas, about 50 kilometers south of Manila. It is the 2nd most active volcano in the Philippines, with 39 recorded historical eruptions, all concentrated on Volcano Island near the middle of Taal Lake. The caldera was formed by prehistoric eruptions. Wildfire Explorer, a volcano on an island, in a lake in a province 50 kilometers from a capital city of 14 million people. That geometry, Volcano Island, surrounded by lakes, surrounded by populated lake shores, 50 kilometers from Metro Manila, is what makes Taal the single most dangerous volcano in the Philippine archipelago per unit of population at risk. Not per unit of geological intensity, per unit of population exposure. The January 2020 eruption of Taal demonstrated this with brutal precision. The volcano erupted on January 12, 2020, with the alert level escalating from level 2 to level 4. It was a Plinian eruption from the main crater on Volcano Island. The eruption spewed bomb to lapilli-sized scoria fragments along with ash to Calabarzon, Metro Manila, some parts of central Luzon, and Pangasinan, canceling classes, work schedules, and flights. A total of 39 people died in the eruption, mostly because they refused to leave their homes or suffered health-related problems during the evacuation. Wildfire Explorer 39 people, from a volcano that erupted into a lake, sending ash across the metropolitan region containing 1/10 of the entire Philippine population. Right now, in May 2026, there were 2 minor phreatomagmatic events, each around 2 minutes long, that occurred during April 29th and produced plumes that rose 400 to 600 meters above the crater rim. One phreatic eruption that was 4 minutes long was also recorded that same day. The alert level remained at 1, National Parks Traveler. On May 7th, 2026, a new eruption occurred at Taal at 2046 UTC, with the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center Tokyo issuing a volcanic ash advisory. Ash was reported extending southeast at flight level 020, approximately 2,000 feet above sea level. DeSantis Daily, an ash advisory issued by Tokyo VAAC on the night of May 7th. That is yesterday evening. That is 48 hours ago. For a volcano 50 kilometers from Manila, Taal rose to alert level 2 on May 1st, 2026, before being lowered back to level 1 after activity moderated. Inflationary deformation continues to be recorded. The Watchers. Inflationary deformation. The ground on Taal Volcano Island is swelling, the same deformation signal that preceded the 2020 Plinian eruption. At a lower rate, at a lower intensity, but present, documented, and ongoing. Here is the detail that should stop you cold. Taal Volcano Island, the landmass in the center of Taal Lake where the main crater sits, where the phreatomagmatic eruptions are occurring, where the inflationary deformation is being recorded, is designated by Five Oaks as a permanent danger zone. Five Oaks reminded the public that the entire Taal Volcano Island is a permanent danger zone and recommended that the main crater and areas along the Dang Castilla Fissure should remain prohibited. National Parks Traveler Permanent Danger Zone. The entire island, not a sector, not a radius around the main crater. The entire island is permanently off limits to human habitation under 5 LTS guidelines. There are people living on it, farmers, fishing families, residents who returned to their homes on Volcano Island after the 2020 eruption, who rebuilt, who replanted, who reestablished the agricultural operations that the fertile volcanic soil makes viable, on an island that the agency responsible for monitoring the volcano has designated as permanently too dangerous to inhabit. The phreatomagmatic eruptions of April 29th occurred on an island that people are living on. The ash advisory issued on May 7th covers an island that people are living on. And 50 kilometers north, in Manila, in Makati, in Quezon City, in the metropolitan constellation of 14 million people, residents who cannot see Taal from their windows know it is there the way they know it is there every day. In the background, designated dangerous, occasionally producing the ash plume that covers their cars on a Tuesday morning and is gone by Wednesday. Until it isn't. Kanlaon Volcano, Negros Island, the most active volcano in the Visayas region, and the one receiving the least coverage of the three. Kanlaon Volcano began erupting on June 3rd, 2024. Since then, at least 5 major eruptions and numerous smaller ash emissions have occurred. The April 2025 eruption displaced more than 8,600 families, or about 28,272 people, from 34 barangays in Negros Occidental and Negros Oriental. Local 10 in June 2024. Kanlaon has been in a continuous eruptive sequence for nearly 2 years, before Mayon escalated in January 2026. Before Taal began its 2026 phreatomagmatic sequence, Kanlaon was already erupting. As of May 4th, 2026, a total of 5 ash emission events, each lasting between 3 and 60 minutes, were recorded. Ash plumes rose 500 meters above the vent and drifted southeast, south, and west. Tremor episodes were recorded 5 times. Volcanic seismicity was recorded 22 times. Sulfur dioxide emissions averaged 2,175 tons per day. Alert level 2, Wikipedia. May 5th, 7 ash emission events lasting between 6 and 174 minutes. Ash plumes rose 800 meters, 6 tremor episodes, 19 volcanic earthquakes. SO2 at 154 tons per day. WGCU, 174 minutes. 1 ash emission event lasted 2 hours and 54 minutes in a single day on a volcano that is in its second year of continuous eruptive activity on alert level 2. And there is a specific detail in Kanlaon's history that no coverage of the current activity is mentioned. On August 10th, 24, mountain climbers hiked the volcano when Kanlaon erupted without warning, killing British student Julian Green and Filipinos Jamrain Tragico and Neil Perez, who were trapped near the summit close to the crater. The local authorities rescued 17 others, including 10 Belgians, another British climber, and 6 Filipinos. CBS News. Without warning. Kanlaon erupted without warning while 24 people were on its slopes. 3 of them died. The eruption happened before seismic monitoring networks could detect the precursory signals in time to issue an alert. That was not in 2024 or 2025. That was a documented historical event at a volcano that is currently producing 22 volcanic earthquakes per day and 5 to 7 ash emission events per day. Average daily sulfur dioxide emissions have been approximately 2,800 tons per day since unrest began in June 2024. Average SO2 in 2026 has been 1,460 tons per day. Local 10, 2 years of elevated SO2 emissions. 2 years of inflationary deformation. 2 years of volcanic earthquakes. Ash emissions that have affected neighboring islands, Panay, Guimaras, Cebu, on days when the plume is large enough. Negros Island, the island Kanlaon sits on, has a population of approximately 4-5 million people. None of them live on Negros without living within range of Kanlaon's ash corridor. Here is what is not making headlines about the 3 volcano situation. The 5-ALKS monitoring network is simultaneously managing 3 major volcanic emergencies with a budget, a staffing level, and a monitoring infrastructure designed for the Philippines' normal baseline of volcanic activity. Normal baseline, which already includes 24 active volcanoes across an archipelago of 7,641 islands. When Mayon is at alert level 3 and Taal is generating phreatomagmatic bursts, and Kanlaon is producing 22 volcanic earthquakes per day, simultaneously, the scientists, the data analysts, the bulletin writers, the public communication officers, and the field monitoring staff of 5-ALKS are distributed across 3 separate active emergency situations. Each one would be a full capacity event in isolation. All 3 are occurring at the same time. 5-ALKS explained on its website. PDCs are mixtures of fragmented volcanic particles, hot gases, and ash that rush down the volcano's slopes or rapidly outward from a vent at high speeds. PolitiFact. That explanation, published during the Mayon PDC event on February 27th, reflects the public communication workload that 5-ALKS is managing, not just monitoring, explaining, to communities across 3 island groups simultaneously, in Filipino and English, through social media, through bulletins, through their radio advisories that reach communities without internet access on the slopes of Negros and in the rural barangays of Albay. The agricultural damage is also accumulating across 3 separate island economies simultaneously. Negros is sugar country. 23,000 hectares of sugarcane affected by Kanlaon's eruptions. Albay is rice and abaca country. Rice fields buried under Mayon ash. Batangas is agriculture and fishing country. Taal Lake's fishing industry, which supports tens of thousands of families disrupted by volcanic activity in the lake. About 57,163 people were affected by the June 2024 Kanlaon eruption, with 3,905 displaced, 2,680 houses damaged, and an estimated $3, or $7 million in agricultural losses. The December 2024 eruption affected around 40,189 people with an estimated $681,014 in agricultural damage across approximately 298 hectares of land. Local, 10. Those figures are for single Kanlaon eruption events. The current simultaneous 3 volcano situation is producing agricultural loss and economic displacement across 3 regions simultaneously. The National Disaster Response Framework of the Philippines, the NDRRMC, is coordinating across those 3 regions. The Department of Social Welfare and Development is supplying evacuation centers across 3 separate island groups. The local government units are issuing advisories in 3 separate disaster communication environments, all at the same time. Now, the structural picture. The Philippines sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire at one of its most geologically active intersections. The Philippine Mobile Belt, the tectonic architecture that defines the archipelago, is a collision zone between the Eurasian Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, and multiple microplates that produce the complex fault and volcanic systems underlying the island chain. The Philippines is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region known for frequent volcanic eruptions and seismic activity. The country is home to more than 20 active volcanoes. Wildfire Explorer, more than 20, of which 24 are currently listed as active, of which 3 are simultaneously in eruption or high-level unrest tonight. The specific geography of the three simultaneous events covers the full north-south extent of the Philippine archipelago. Mayon is on Luzon, the main island, the most populated island, the island where Manila sits. Taal is also on Luzon, 50 kilometers from Manila. Kanlaon is on Negros, the Visayas, the central Philippines, 700 kilometers south of Manila. 3 volcanoes. The full geographic span of the country, every major island group represented. And here is the number that ties all 3 together into a single national emergency picture. Across Mayon's 124 affected barangays, Taal's Batangas Province lakeshore communities, and Kanlaon's Negros Occidental and Oriental municipalities, the total population living under active volcanic monitoring and alert advisories tonight is in the range of several 100,000 people, not all of them evacuated, not all of them in immediate danger, but all of them making daily decisions about when the alert level that has been there for weeks means something different than it meant yesterday. The Five Oaks alert status page reads, Mayon, magma is close to the crater. If trend is one of increasing unrest, eruption is possible within weeks. Taal, magmatic, tectonic, or hydrothermal disturbance, no eruption imminent. Kanlaon, probable intrusion of magma at depth which may or may not lead to magmatic eruption. NBC 6, South Florida. 3 different alert language descriptions, 3 different risk profiles, 1 agency, 1 country, 1 night. So ask yourself 3 questions. The Mayon lava flow collapse that generated the May 5th pyroclastic density currents was not preceded by an escalation in monitoring parameters. The collapse occurred at the flow front when it reached an unstable slope section, initiating PDCs that lasted 7 minutes and traveled 3,000 meters. 3 separate lava flows on 3 separate flanks of Mayon are currently advancing simultaneously, each one a potential collapse point. 5 LCS. Chief Emma. Antonia Bornas confirmed there has been no significant change in overall monitoring parameters since the events. If collapse-generated PDCs at Mayon are not preceded by seismic warning escalation, if the trigger is flow front instability rather than a measurable change in the monitoring parameters that PHIVOLCS uses to escalate alert levels, what is the specific early warning mechanism for the 97,000 people in the affected zone who have not evacuated? And how many seconds of warning does that mechanism provide between collapse detection and community alert? CBS News, Taal Volcano Island is designated by PHIVOLCS as a permanent danger zone, the entire island permanently prohibited from human habitation. Residents have returned to Volcano Island following the 2020 eruption. Phreatomagmatic eruptions occurred on April 29th. A new volcanic ash advisory was issued on May 7th. Inflationary deformation continues. The 2020 Taal eruption killed 39 people, mostly those who refused to leave. It escalated from level 2 to level 4 in hours. The current activity is at level 1, with brief elevation to level 2 on May 1st. Inflationary deformation, the precursor signal that indicates magma intrusion, is ongoing. What is the specific deformation threshold, measured in millimeters of ground uplift, at which PHIVOLCS would re-escalate Taal to level 2? And how many people are currently living on a permanent danger zone island that PHIVOLCS has not yet escalated to the level that would require their evacuation? DeSantis daily. And if Kanlaon has been in continuous eruption since June 2024, 23 months, producing volcanic earthquakes, ash emissions, SO2 at 2,800 tons per day average, inflationary deformation, and multiple explosive eruptions, including events that produced pyroclastic flows and force, kilometer ash plumes, and the alert level today is level 2, the same level it was in August 2024, in November 2024, in February 2026. And the volcano's history includes an eruption that killed 3 people hiking its slopes without warning. At what point does the Philippines National Disaster Preparedness Framework treat a 23-month eruption sequence at level 2 as a chronic emergency rather than an ongoing monitoring situation? And what is the plan for the 4? 5 million people on Negros Island if Kanlaon escalates to level 4 the way it escalated to level 3 in December 2024, within hours of a major explosive event. Right now, as you read this, PHIVOLCS is monitoring 3 volcanoes simultaneously. In the Mayon Volcano Observatory in Albay, a monitoring station on the slopes of the most active volcano in the Philippines, instruments are recording the seismic signature of 3 active lava flows advancing down 3 separate gullies. The tilt meters are measuring the inflation that drives the effusion. The SO2 sensors are tracking the 1,829 tons per day of volcanic gas that drifts southwest over Bicol. And the camera on the MIEC gully is pointed at the flow front that collapsed twice in 5 days. Alert level 3 remains in effect. Officials warned that pyroclastic flows, a mix of hot gas, ash, and volcanic material, can move rapidly and pose life-threatening risks to communities near the volcano. The Watchers. In the Taal Volcano Observatory in Tagaytay, on the ridge overlooking Taal Lake, Looking down at the volcano island in its center, scientists recorded a volcanic ash advisory issued last night at 2046 UTC. Inflationary deformation continues. The phreatomagmatic bursts of April 29th produced plumes that rose 400 to 600 meters above the crater rim. 50 kilometers north, in Manila, the eruption is background noise. Known, monitored. Not yet serious enough to cancel flights or close schools, until it is. In the Kanlaon Volcano Observatory in La Carlota, Negros Occidental, 7 ash emission events on May 5th, 19 volcanic earthquakes, 6 tremor episodes, 1,154 tons of SO2. Alert level 2. The most active volcano in the Visayas has been erupting since June 2024. Local 10, 23 months. The sugarcane fields of Negros Occidental have been receiving volcanic ash for 23 months. The fishing communities of Taal Lake have been watching their islands smolder for months. The farming families of Albay have been living under a level 3 alert since January 6th. 3 volcanoes, 3 islands, 3 communities making the same calculation that Philippine communities have always made beside their volcanoes. The soil is rich because the volcano is active, and the volcano is active because the soil is rich. And somewhere in that equation is a line between sustainable risk and catastrophic loss that nobody can see clearly until it is crossed. PHIVOLCS is watching all 3 lines simultaneously tonight. The instruments are running, the bulletin writers are drafting, the alert level colors on the public map are holding. For now,